Okay, simple interest. Very, very important you understand this formula. It's the amount of money that accrues based on how much money you put in the bank. So say you have $2,000, you give the bank $2,000. They're going to calculate simple interest, if that's what you elect to do, on that $2,000 in, indefinitely. So they're just going to keep doing it unless something happens in the investment, there's a closure period, whatever it is. They're always going to calculate interest on the original amount that you invested. So even if you add more money, the interest is still going to be calculated on $2,000. And even when you earn interest, the interest is still going to be calculated on $2,000. So it doesn't matter if the account gets up to 10 grand with all the interest you earn. It's still going to be calculated on $2,000. This is simple interest. So I equals interest. P is the principal or the money invested. R is the interest rate, which is usually expressed in a percentage or a decimal point. And N is the time period. So how many times over is the money going to be calculated, or the interest is going to be calculated. So Kayla invests $7,000 into a simple interest account for 3 years at a rate of 4% per annum. We always underline our 3 pieces of information: principal, number of time periods, rate. So now we plug that into our formula. $7,000 times a rate of 4% per annum. We're going to convert our rate to a decimal. It's easier to put that in like that. 0.04 times 3 years. We then get $840 of interest. That is not the value of the investment. That's how much interest the bank has paid her. Okay, so depreciation refers to something that is going down in value. I'm going to use Lightning McQueen here. Let's say he depreciates, this would never happen because Lightning McQueen would never depreciate, but let's say he depreciates in value by $450 per year for 3 years, starting at $70,000. So we have a formula here. Salvage value. So think of a car lot where they like salvage cars for parts. Salvage value, our final value after all of the depreciation, is going to be VO. Don't worry about the O, it's just V. Minus depreciation times number of time periods. So his original current value is $70,000 minus depreciation of $450 per year for 3 years. His salvage value, he's going to be worth $68,650 at the end of the 3 years. All right, we're going to do a couple practice questions now. So calculate the simple interest on the following investments. $4,000 invested for 6 years at 8% per annum. So to do this question, we have to do I equals PRN. So interest equals $4,000 times the rate, which is 0.8%, times 6 years. We put that in our calculator. We get $1,920 of interest. Next question. $2,800 is our principal, invested for 3 years at 0.025%, 3 years. 2,800 times 0.025 times 3 years, we've earned $210. This shows you the difference between interest rates, 8% versus 2.5%. Now, this one's important to understand. $7,800 invested for 5 years at 4%, calculated every 6 months. Number one, it doesn't say per annum, so we're going to understand this is a 6-monthly interest rate. If it was 4% per annum, calculated every 6 months, we would have to divide it by 2 to get our 2-monthly rate. But because it doesn't say per annum, we're just going to write 4%. Every 6 months for 5 years, so there's not 5 time periods, there's 10, because there's 10 lots of 6 months in 5 years. So 7,800 times 0.04 times 10. 7,800 times 0.04 times 10. And I get $3,120. Okay. We've got those notes there. Does not say per annum, 6 monthly, 5 years. All right, we now have a table of interest rates we're going to complete. So we've been given one interest rate for each of them. So we're going to try and work down from our first piece of information. So if the 6 monthly rate is 3%, we can assume that the annual rate would have to be double that, right? 6%. If the annual rate is 6% and we want quarters, we're going to divide by 4. 6 divided by 4 is going to be 1.5%. And if we want the monthly rate, we're going to divide 6 by 12, which gives us 0.5%. Now we have a monthly rate, 0.4%. We're going to divide by 4 to get 4 months, which is, by 3 to get 3 months, which is a quarter. So we get, oh, hang on. I've got to go back to this one then. Let's see if I can erase. I've just realized I've done this one wrong. So we have an annual rate of 6%. Oh, actually, no, I think I did it right. We have an annual rate of 6%, quarters, 6 divided by 4, yeah, 1.5. And our monthly rate, yes, we need to go 6 divided by 12, so 0.5. Second guess myself for a second there. If we have a monthly rate of 0.4, we can divide it by 3 months to get a quarter, 1.2. If we have 0.4, we're going to divide by 6 to get 6 months, 2.4%. And then we divide that by 2 to get the annual rate, 4.8%. This one, annual rate 10%, so 6 monthly rate is going to be half of that, 5%. We then need a quarter of our annual rate, so 10 divided by 1 quarter is going to be, or 10 divided by, we can go, there's 4 quarters, so divided by 4, 2.45%. And then we want a monthly rate, so we can do 10 divided by 12, and we get 0.8%. Last one, if the quarterly rate is 4.5%, 4.5 times 4 quarters is going to be 18%. Half that for our 6 monthly rate. And then 18 divided by 12 is going to give us our monthly rate. This is really, really important stuff to understand because so many of your questions will give you $7,000, 4% per annum, compounded quarterly. You need to break that 4% down into 4 quarters to get that 1% interest rate. If you don't make these changes when you practice these questions, you will not get the question right. We've got all of our answers there as well. Okay, a car is purchased for $45,000 and depreciates at $800 per year. How much is it worth after 5 years? Oh, ignore that. Okay, so we have our salvage value equals our current value minus depreciation time periods. Salvage value is going to equal $45,000 minus our period of depreciation, which is $800 per year for 5 years, so times 5. Pop that into our calculator. 45,000 times 800 or minus 800 times 5 gives us $41,000. Other question, a house is purchased for $1.2 million and depreciates at $18,000 per year. This is very uncommon for houses, but let's say the wear and tear is serious. 18,000, 20 years. 1.2 million minus 18,000 times 20. The house is now worth $840,000. Take a look at these questions. We have our 2 answers here.